words on the giant screen and see if you can figure out the melody with us here to Sacred Love.
Welcome to everyone here, as well as those joining us online to Unity Spiritual Center, where we are about inspiring people to make a positive difference in the world. My name is Amber McKenzie, and I will be your platform assistant today. And now, if you could, just take a moment to silence your cell phones, or as Dr. Gary suggests, turn it to stun mode. Right? We want to begin our time together by sharing our opening affirmation. I will say it once and then ask you to repeat it with me. There is only one presence and one power active in my life and in the universe, God the Good. Together? There's only one presence and one power active in my life and in the universe, God the Good. This is Unity's foundation principle: one presence, one power, one life, living through and as each one of us. This morning, we will hear from Dr. Gary, who will be sharing the Sunday message, and then Dennis will be leading us in meditation. We are being blessed musically this morning by Sean and Tawny Wright. Amazing. Sean and Tawny.
And actually, Emily Cranny will be playing the offering later.
Great. And Emily Cranny. Awesome. So now we can, if you stand if you can, and we'll sing our community song.
I got an interesting observation here, Tom. Yes. And I just looked up at the screen, but it says everything new, but those aren't the right words. Good words, everything you think. Really much. What should we do there, guys? What song do we do? You guys want to put those lyrics back up? We can change them. Sure. I'm not flexible. So we're going to do this song called Everything New. But it actually is a song that you all know called Immortal, and I'm happy about that because you know those lyrics, right? Na 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 na. We do our best to be one and leave our legacy behind. Nobody cares about how we struggle to be a legend now online. 'Cause everybody wants to be a hero. We try to stay our claim to fame, but what we take adds up to zero. It's what we did that wins the game. And so we find ourselves and we get a little bit better and we learn to trust our heart and soul. And now I finally get it. I don't need a credit, 'cause they my heart is worth its weight in gold. I'm gonna give it all away for us. It'll be a I'm gonna give it all we're giving it all away. We're going to higher That's our congregation, flexible, flexible.
You know, we are so blessed to have somebody who can make last-minute adjustments like that. So let's get Sean and Tiny up here. Good morning. My name's Dennis, and just a few announcements for you. First of all, you can see that picture of David up there. It's about A Course in Miracles Made Easy. And boy, that's been around since the early 70s. And I know David's been teaching a long, long time. So this will be an outstanding course. It'll be on Wednesdays, 10 a.m. And I can't quite read the other one. My eyes. Thank you very much. And that'll be July to August. And then we also, the people who brought treats today, people who own RVs, people who own fifth wheelers, people who own travel trailers. And I think there's nearly 2 or 3 treats out there. Yeah, I know. After I made that announcement last week, or actually after I came up with that heading, and then Amber asked for a show of hands for how many people owned RVs, and one person raised their hand. Hey, you win a few, you lose a few, right? So anyway, we just want to make sure that you were aware of that. And then in terms of the Q process, Dr. Gary is going to be teaching that on Saturday, July 21st. How many people here have taken the Q process? Show of hands. Take a look around and just see all the hands. So what that means is if you haven't had the opportunity, it's a really good class. It touches people's lives. It really does some good, deep healing. So if you haven't had the opportunity to take that before, I really encourage you to do that. So as it says up there, register today. And when you do that, it'll just be something that you can look forward to for Saturday, July 21st. And then let me ask David Lineweber to come up. There he is. He's going to tell us about the blood drive.
So Jeff, I got a question for you.
All right.
Have you ever saved somebody's life? You know, saved somebody from drowning, pulled them from a burning car, done something else to save somebody's life?
Guess
No,
I
you
haven't. I've saved people's lives in other ways, but I haven't ever pulled anybody
from a burning car.
I'm a savior, you know.
Oh, okay. Well, near as I can figure.
Exactly.
Near as I can figure, I've saved at least 40, maybe as many as 120 lives.
And I know why.
Why is that?
Because you give blood.
I do.
You donate blood.
Every time you give a pint of blood, that saves a life.
I know it.
And sometimes as many as 3 because they divide it up into, platelets and red blood cells and all kinds of stuff, plasma, yeah. So, we have a blood drive coming up on July 15th, and we need you. Now, only about 4 in 10 people are eligible to donate, and only about 10% of any given group donates, but we've always managed to do a little better than 10%. I'd like to do a lot better than 10%. And I know we have some new folks here that haven't participated in blood drive because they're new to our church. So I'd like to encourage you to step out to the welcome desk on the way out and sign up. If you don't think you're eligible, we'd be happy to talk to you about whether you're eligible or not, and the final determination on that, of course, the blood drive folks. Now, when you donate during the summer, they normally give out T-shirts.
Cool.
But this summer, if you donate, you're eligible to win a 55-inch flat screen TV.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, who couldn't use that?
So I'm gonna let them tap my band and get in that drawing.
All right. Good.
So we want to see you out there. If you think you might be eligible to donate blood, we'd love to talk to you. Even if you think you aren't, we'd love to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And last announcement I'll make, because I got asked this as I was sitting down, who's bringing treats next week? Everybody gets a reprieve because it's Candy and Shirley and Kimberly are bringing treats next week. So.
Okay, so today's Center Update is brought to us by, Just messing with the sound, folks. So before we get into this next center update, it's a little hot, very hot. I'd like to call up Chris Porter, and is Jenny Arney here today? No, Jenny, come here, Chris. So Chris is one of our newest community members. This is an opportunity for us to welcome you, Chris, into our community fellowship. And so this is your certificate, and if Jane were here, she would lavish you with... Amber, come up here and help me lavish. Okay, so we want to bless Chris. We'll say, Chris, we love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the Christ in you. Together, Chris, we love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the Christ in you. God bless you, and welcome to Unity Spiritual Center. All right, now Frida and Carolyn. Are you going to ask Carolyn to come up here with you? Yes? Okay. You have to speak over here.
Carolyn, join me, please. So, Carolyn and I got together.
You have to talk into it. You only have 5 minutes.
Okay. Carolyn and I have been bonding over how much we enjoy being at the center. I'll tell my story first. I got here just a little bit over a year ago.
I didn't even hear.
Oh, good. I get to say it again. I got here a little bit over a year ago, and it took me about a month to realize that my journey of 80 years, where I had bounced from one thought and one idea to another, I had arrived at home. And there were several experiences that I want to share with you that made it possible for me to get here so fast. First of all, I have 80 years track record of being everywhere else. We really need each other. So when I came, when I stood up to let it be known, thank you, that I was a first-time visitor. Afterwards, I stood in the corner over there. The corner over there. And there was this little tornado that started over in the corner, and it just steamed toward me. And it jumped up in front of me, and it says, "Hi, I'm Sally Sledge." And I said, "I'm Frida Morgenstern, and you'll have to tell me your name 27 more times because I forget names." And so Sally said, "Don't worry, it'll be taken care of." And the next Sunday, I was over there. The tornado started over there. Sally Sledge said, "I am still Sally Sledge, and you are still Frida Morgenstern." So it just felt like a really good start. And then to anchor that start, I decided to help with the landscape team. And I had known Wayne Green because we bonded over straw bale houses. And so when I saw that he was in charge of landscape, it was safe for me to volunteer. And that was one of the coolest things I've ever done. There's a group of about 8 or 10 guys. There's a group of about 8 or 10 guys, and there's one Jim, and there's one John, and then there's one Wayne, and then there are 4 Garys. And most of them are right around 80, so they're all really kind. But working with them has given me just this amazing opportunity to get, so to speak, in on a ground level. The first project I was given was, I think it was Wayne's trust in me that was so stunning. He said, why don't you take over the atrium and dig away and do what you want to do? And so for 3 months, John and I put ourselves in the center of unity and dug away. And we were surrounded by so much attention and love. It was just awesome. We'd be in the little area and we'd hear the doors slide open, and it was never a, what are you doing? It was always, thank you for doing what you're doing. And the trust was so awesome. And when Carolyn decided that this committee needed to happen, I decided my part needs to be name tags, because it does take me 27 contacts before I get it. Sally Slade. Yeah.
27 contacts and Sally Slade.
Right. 27 contacts with each new person. So when I look at Carolyn, I like that that name tag is right under her nose, so I have a picture of the face and the name together. And I imagine there are some of you who are as disabled with this thing as I am. So we're starting a program. 2 sets of name tags. The blue are for people who think they know they have something to share, who are in a mood to share it. And when you come in the doors, there will be 2 tables. You get to pick a blue one. A blue one, and on the blue one you can say what you want to contribute, you want to talk about. If you don't want to talk to anybody, or if you just want to come and find out information, you get a red tag. And so the red tags look for the blue tags. And we will find each other after the service. And I'll let you know right now, my tag is landscape, and what's that one, Carolyn?
The Welcome Committee. When I first started coming to Unity in January. I moved here in November. And when I first showed up, nobody talked to me.
Right.
So I realized that it really wasn't them, it was me. And the way to get started in Unity is to volunteer for something and start doing things for other people. And I can tell you that my life absolutely changed once I did that. I love being at Unity, and I've made so many great friends, and I thank you all for that. So I would encourage you, if you're not already volunteered for something, please do that. We're not like your cell phone company. We won't keep you if you find something that you signed up for you don't like to do. It's okay. You can back up and try something else, but we need you and we love you, and we hope you'll do that.
The other thing is that in organizations where people have known each other for 30 years, it becomes easy to assume that, well, I know them, I don't need to wear the name tag. You who have been here 100 years or around that time need to wear your name tags, because we newcomers need to see them. So we will have these available for you every Sunday in 2 colors. Yay. Thank you.
few minutes and move into meditation. And I invite you to put anything down that you might be holding, so you can take just a few minutes to give yourselves permission to relax into the Spirit of God. And it really is an act of permission from yourself to yourself. So we breathe in. And let's breathe into this very moment. Right here, right now. We breathe deeply in. And as we do, this very moment bubbles up from inside us. It whispers to us. And it is the Spirit of God. It is the Spirit of God that breathes us in and breathes us out. We are centered in this holy instant of the Spirit of God within, that reminds us, that whispers to us that we are so blessed. We are so blessed in every moment of every day. It's so easy to forget when we connect with the physical world of illusion. But deep inside, that deep love of the Spirit of God blesses us, touches us, fills our life. We are so blessed. And let's know that. Let's be with that understanding for the next minute in the silence. Spirit of God, touch me, bless me, be with me every moment of every day. Lead me and teach me how to surrender into the presence of the Spirit of God, because we are so blessed. And so it is, God. Thank you. Amen.
I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful.
So, Jan and I have been gone for a couple of weeks, so I'll just give you a little catch-up so that you have a sense of what's been happening. First of all, let me just say that in the 2 weeks that we were gone, we traveled to Unity Village and then to our annual People's Convention, which was held in Olathe, Kansas this year, a suburb of Kansas City. And on that trip, I also picked up my wings for my airplane project, so that's unfolded nicely. And I had an opportunity to watch the service while I was away, and just keeping my eyes on everybody. just so you'll know, I watched David's Rite of Passage service. It was awesome to see so many of you get up and be honored and recognized for your life's journeys and the things that you're wanting to honor and value. And then, so I actually made it back in town Saturday before Father's Day, but I just took the day off. I enjoyed doing that. But I went out at the restaurant, and during the service, I was able to watch, right, real time, you guys were having Dennis, and Dennis was doing the service. And you know, you guys just do whatever you want when we're away. I love that about you. That's so cool. And I got to say that, Dennis, through your talk was masterful, and I do want to say that throughout the entire talk, I did not once feel a need for a PowerPoint slide. It was just really, really awesome, and it feels so good to be.
This right now?
Yeah, I'm going to be using some PowerPoint slides. I'm not that far along. So it feels so good to be able to be gone, because, you know, being gone has impact. It changes things, and for Jan and I to be gone also, it changes us to have the opportunities that we have when we're able to be away and to be able to be with colleagues and others who are also in the effort, you know, other spiritual communities throughout Unity Land, and now Centers for Spiritual Living and Unity are moving towards greater participation and partnership. So it's as if one New Thought movement is beginning to emerge, and so that's exciting. And part of the theme, this year's conference theme, was all about looking at 2030, 12 years from now, and what we're going to become, or what we need to change in order for us to become relevant and be able to be sustainable in this economy and during these times. And this is just not something that's unique to New Thought. This is happening in congregational ministry throughout the world, basically. And so we had an opportunity to look at what the leaders of the New Thought movement are up to and what their effort is, as well as to be personally touched by the events that are happening in our world. And so Jane did ask me to convey something, because she had an experience there that she's not able to talk about now, but I'm sure she'll say more about it when she returns. And we had a colleague. First of all, before I get into telling this story, I just wanted to mention that part of the conference that we participated in is looking at our evolutionary process, how we transform. And we've mentioned this, Jane and I both have mentioned the idea that we, as we look at our own transformational journey, are looking at 4 dimensions: waking up, actualizing this dimension of ourself that's infinite and eternal, the presence of God, literally, that inhabits us. We need to awaken to that presence. We need to grow up. We need to develop, evolve out of our sense of victimhood, evolve into a greater expression of knowing that our entire life is always for us. We have some cleanup work to do. We have to look at what gets created when we're living in our own disconnect, and the consequences of what happens when society lives in the disconnect, living as if we're separate. instead of really living in the awareness that we're one, and what we do to each other affects us all. And then finally, to show up that this world is beckoning us, because what's needed is more of what we truly are with respect to who and what we come here to be. And so the conference theme looked at waking up, growing up, cleaning up, and showing up. But in the context of our individual journey, as well as our organizational evolution, these are challenging times. And so what gets our attention usually gets our attention and defines what our life experience looks and feels like. Anyway, Sunday before conference, we attended a service at the Unity Village Chapel that was facilitated by Reverend Kevin Ross. Reverend Kevin Ross, here's a picture of him. He's an African-American Unity minister. He's a prominent Unity figure in our movement. He reminds me of a young Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and he is, in my opinion, the embodiment of that soul. Anyway, he gave this is a picture of him leading a prayer at the House of Representatives at Congress several sessions ago. But he was the guest speaker at Unity Village, and we had 500 visitors from all parts of the world. And he gave a talk that was central to his ministry. He's a minister in the city of Sacramento, California, and perhaps you're aware of the young black man that was killed by the police, who was unarmed and was shot 20 times, 8 in the back, and only to find that he had a cell phone. And he was among over 200 ministers in the Sacramento area, out of which only 5 felt so called that this was something that needed to be addressed. And so he organized an effort to bring attention to this atrocity. And he spoke the words that rang really deeply true with Jane. And basically he said, "Not on my watch." In other words, there are things that happen, but should they be allowed to just go unanswered? And there's this yearning in the New Thought movement that is acknowledging that there are things that are happening that in some ways we're bound not to speak about because of our sensibilities not wanting to offend people. I mean, we have Republicans and Democrats and independents in our community. We don't want to politicize any position, but at the same time we have to be in integrity with our spiritual dimension that is calling us into owning what is being created when we're living in our disconnect. And until we kind of recognize that there's some things that call us to do something, then we are kind of living in this sense of, well, somebody else will take care of that. Well, Jane and I have an interesting dynamic when it comes to what's happening in the world. And so if Jane could, she would throw things at the TV. She would kick it. If she had something that could be shot or thrown, otherwise we wouldn't have any electronic device in our house because this bothers her tremendously. And so when the things that are happening at the border with the families being separated, she lost it. And so she's asked me to read something. She knows how much I don't like to read in public. Stephen's reading group. Okay, so here goes. She's asked me to read this, but she wants to apologize at the same time, in the sense that this is not to be construed as being an official position of Unity Spiritual Center. She's not wanting anybody to feel otherwise offended by this. She's just wanting us to kind of welcome this, and if we're aligned with it, she'll invite you to also assert your sign, your signature. So here it is. Dear Congresswoman McMorris Rodgers, as a mother, grandmother, and faith leader within your constituency, I am compelled to speak out about the appalling practice of separating children from their families seeking asylum at our border. I understand that there has been an executive order signed that is temporarily stopping the practice. Nonetheless, the families that have been torn apart through these unjust and trauma-inducing actions need your help to be reunited. Although you did not raise the alarm to help the president rectify this error, you have another chance to speak out on behalf of those of us in your congressional district who are opposed to this cruel and inhumane treatment of innocent children. The children must be reunited immediately with their families. This is a human rights issue and is even more urgent for the very young. Do not accept the excuse that this is too hard. This was done quickly. It must be undone just as quickly through immediate action. Sincerely, the Reverend Dr. Jane Simmons, Senior Co-Minister, Unity Spiritual Center. And then... I hope you widen this angle out so everybody can see this ovation. She'll be happy to have this as well received. I'm going to pass around this, and there's room for you to sign it. If you have an advanced degree or any other title that you'd like to affix to your name, I know we do have some PhDs and master's academic degrees in here. It helps to have those, and so I'll just start this around. So I just also want to mention that the Unity Worldwide Ministries as well as Centers for Spiritual Living are both affiliated with the Association for Global New Thought, otherwise known as AGENT, and that AGENT has also forwarded a letter to the President of the United States in reiterating what Jane has mentioned. So with that said, and with the sense is that there are things that we can do, and so Jane feels like, okay, this is what we can do. We can express what is our values, what's important to us, and we still expect our elected officials to do the right thing and not to politicize that which is obviously transcends the political landscape. But yet, when we're kind of compelled to endure a system that superimposes upon us a standard that is artificially created to sustain priorities that are not God-given, but yet priorities that that move an agenda of the world forward, but it's always in the context of separation. It's always in the context of anyway. So, what was I going to talk about today? All right. So I'm also wanting to share that I believe that we have God has given us the ability to manifest a greater good in our life. That there's nothing in the universe that is holding something back from us. So whatever is your purpose or passion, whatever is something that is an innate longing for some expression of a dimension of yourself, we need to know that this is essentially a given. And the reality of our not experiencing this transcendent dimension of life that is a reality independent of the conditions that we find ourselves, the fact that we're not experiencing an abundant life as Jesus has proclaimed was his purpose, to me is a matter of we're out of phase with that reality, that dimension of life that is our capacity to be present to whatever that we're having in our life and not feel diminished by it. And so regardless of what's happening in the world, we still need to develop the capacity to be with what we're having as our life experience, regardless of how what we're having looks or feels. We still have to have the capacity to be with whatever we're having and welcome it as if it's for us. If we're to ultimately transcend the conditions that we are sort of conditioned to push away in our life. And so when we have a situation that looks or feels against us and our conditioning is to push this away or to try to fix what seems to be broken in the outer experience, we're pushing away the very mechanism that life provides us with as the necessity to challenge our own beliefs, our own states of being, our own habits of being that keep us locked into patterns of behavior that keep the world functioning the way our world functions. And so if we don't do an intervention on our innermost self, in other words, if we don't come to terms with our own habits of being, with how we are having our life, independent of how the world is having it for us, we still have to have the ability to be with whatever we're having and not feel diminished by it. Can you see how that's so? Is that we still have to be able to be with whatever we're having and know that it is for us, even though it looks like it's not. And so part of our challenge in the context of what's happening in this world is to both be able to authentically respond to what are the atrocities or the inhumanities, the conditions that are appalling to anyone's modicum of understanding and compassion. We have to be able to both be in that willingness to open to see what needs to be restored, what needs to be awakened and unleashed. We still have to have that ability, but we are more effective if we can be in that effort, not diminished by what our experience is, not feeling less than, not feeling inadequate or not good enough. And so part of our effort is that if as Jesus says, or as if Scripture says, or if the principle says it's already given, there is a dimension that's already established that if we but align with, all of a sudden our world works differently. Do you know what I'm talking about? Do you sense that there is a way that the world can work differently if we could only kind of position ourselves to kind of align with that way, that this dimension of being that Jesus called the kingdom of God, a dimension of being that he described as a way of being with your life, so that in the way of being with it, you automatically become the avenue through which a greater good is expressed. If we understand that that's what the invitation is just to simply be present, then what's in the way of our being present to the life that we're having is part of the challenge, is part of what keeps us out of phase with the greater good. And so part of our effort, therefore, is to look at what am I doing or who am I being that is negating the reality of the omnipresence of God, that is negating the reality of the omnipresence of more than enough, that is negating the omnipresence that everything is working together for a greater good. What is it in me that is misaligned with that dimension that I need to address? I need to align with it, because otherwise it's like I'm not standing in the light. I'm in some fashion apart from and separate from that which I'm seeking to align with. And so this is not a complex question. It's just a matter of us understanding what creates our own personal reality. Because if you have the ability to step both in alignment with this dimension as well as step out of alignment with this dimension, can we not see that whenever we are judging, we're stepping out of alignment? Can we not see that whenever we're naming what we have not enough, we've stepped out of the alignment? Whenever we are somehow making somebody else the matter with us, we're stepping out of that alignment. There are things that we are doing unconsciously because they are our driven way of being that automatically take us out of alignment with this dimension of ourself that's infinite and eternal. And we have to fix that. The world does not go there. So I've shared this slide before, and it keeps coming back, keeps finding its way into my slide deck because it's important. And if you just take one aspect of any aspect of this cascade, like for instance, think about your habits of having your life. What is your habit of having your life? Are you in the habit of having your life against you? Are you in the habit of having your life be what's wrong with you? So you can just take any aspect of that. What are you in the habit of doing that takes you out of this field of infinite possibilities? What are you in the habit of believing that keeps you locked into limiting ideas and concepts about your well-being and worth? And so as we begin to understand that our habits of being, of doing, of having, of feeling, of believing, of perceiving, keep us locked into patterns that are in alignment with the story of separation, and therefore modulated to this world that is not an adequate mirror to our own divinity. We have to know what the world is unable to mirror back to us. We have to understand what Jesus said. Lift up your eyes, the field are already white unto the harvest. He is trying to describe us to pay attention to a dimension of reality that our five senses cannot reveal to us, but yet is absolutely as real and as present as anything else that we can focus our attention on. So the last thing that I'm really wanting to point this talk to in the context of our struggle to wake up, to grow up, to clean up, to show up, there's the deeper work of really looking at what we're carrying with us that runs us unconsciously. In other words, when we're not paying attention and awake, what happens when all of a sudden we're feeling our sense of not enough, or we feel that we're a disappointment, or we feel that our presence doesn't matter? What happens when we're caught up in those unconscious beliefs, and how can we break free from those? And that's what the Q process is all about. So part of our struggle in this ministry in terms of our effort to transform our lives and inspire people to make a positive difference in our world, we can't do that greater work of making a positive difference in the world out of our sense of not enough. We can't make the bigger difference in our world if we don't feel okay within ourselves. And you see, our well-being hinges upon our taking ownership of that portion of ourself, the little boy or little girl within us that is still living in the disconnect, and recognizing that that's our deeper work, is to awaken ourselves to that little boy or little girl and to receive and reparent that dimension of ourself that didn't grow up with the message from the moment that we were born. Behold, the child of God. I've been gifted with the child of God. And because our parents weren't Mary and Joseph, we got something else. All right. So next week I'm going to talk about my cue card. So what's on my shadow card? I'm going to talk about how my shadow qualities show up. And it's going to be a hard talk for me to give. And I'm just going to invite you to bring your cue cards, for those of you who have them. if you have your cue card, I want you to do this next week. Please have compassion for me when I'm being a disappointment, inadequate, not enough, less than, or a fake. Because I've come here to be compassionate, devoted, integral, the one, generous, centered, and awake. Who have you come here to be? We'll see you next week. God bless you.
Unity stands for peace in the presence of conflict, for love in the presence of hatred, for forgiveness in the presence of injury. Unity honors the many names for God, the many paths to God, for we know there is only one power, one presence, one life. So whoever you are and wherever you are on your journey of transformation, you are welcome here. We would especially like to welcome anyone who is here for the very first time. If this is your first time visiting with us and you feel comfortable raising your hand, our ushers have a gift packet for you. Is there anyone here for the first time? Okay. A few of you. Nice. Welcome. Yay. Some more up here. Wow. Ushers are going to be busy. I love it. So on the outside of the packet that you'll receive, there's a form you can fill out to be added to our mailing list for our weekly e-news update and quarterly newsletter. Is there more? Front row. If you're interested, please fill it in and drop it in the love offering bag as it comes around instead of feeling obligated to give a donation. Also, after the service, you can take this packet to our barista stand and get a free beverage of your choice. And you can also take it to our bookstore and get a CD of today's Sunday talk. And we are very, very glad you are here. So welcome. Okay, so now it is time to welcome and greet each other with a handshake, a hug, a high five, a wave, a namaste, whatever you're comfortable with, as we begin with our welcome song.
Okay, let's all stand up if you can. We'll do the growing love. Growing up, we're forever growing up. It's a seed that we can sow with our caring for the road. We are family, we are friends, and human beings. Together we're forever growing up. Sing it out. Growing up, we're forever growing up. It's a seed that we can sow with our caring for the road. We are family, we are friends, and human beings. Together we're forever growing up. All right, look at each other on the last day. We're forever.
If you don't sit down, I'm going to say something really weird. I'm Serena Lauren, your board vice chair, and this is our opportunity to get our gratitude on and to really share our gifts with this precious ministry and all the things that it gives to us, to really get in touch with the gift this center is and all the love that's in this room and in this congregation. So if you would take with me our prosperity blessing. I know that my giving blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, and all that I give and receive. I give thanks for the abundance that is mine to share. Thank you, Mother, Father, God.
Most of you know that I teach piano, and on those few special occasions, I have a student that I have been able to keep for maybe 13 years. And that is who is going to join us today, Miss Emily Cranny, who is a senior, who's doing a senior recital on Tuesday. You can come up, honey, to the piano and play for us. This is an amazing family that I've had the opportunity to watch grow from a little girl to a beautiful young lady. And she's playing a beautiful piece called Lotus Land by Cyril Scott. But I think it's very appropriate because the lotus flower is one of the most remarkable creations in nature, just like she is. Its beauty lies in its purity, like emerald. Because the magnificent flower emerges from the bottom of a pond that rises up and searches for the sun and the light. And that is this wonderful girl. I hope you enjoy this beautiful song called Lotus Land.
Thank you so much, Emily. That was really amazing. You have a beautiful gift. Thank you for sharing with us. It's awesome. Okay, we give thanks for these gifts and for those who have given them as we send them forth to bless our world. Thank you, God. And so it is. Chaplains. Our chaplains today are Kathy and Marlene. Yay. Right? Or Ocean. Do you also want to be a chaplain? We have 3 today. Well, I hope there's a lot of need in the congregation today. Okay, so I believe Marlene was holding the service in prayer, which one of our chaplains does every service, so thank you, Marlene. If you have anything that is heavy on your heart or that you would like to celebrate, you can pray with one of these amazing women up here, and they will hold it in prayer with you. They will all 3 be at the front of the sanctuary right after the service, and they need you to come up and see them, okay? So, celebration, whatever it is, come see them. So thank you, ladies, for your service. Very good. Okay, another option is that you can fill out a prayer request form, which is found in the seat pocket in front of you. And you can put that in one of our prayer boxes. There's one right up here behind me, and then one in the foyer. Our prayer team will pray with you for 7 days, and then the prayers will be sent on to Silent Unity to be prayed over for 30 days. Also, if you have someone that is in the hospital and has requested a visit from a chaplain, then please fill out the visitation request form that you will also find in the seat pocket and place it also in one of these prayer boxes. Okay, children. Time for our children to come in. Let's welcome them.
We are singing for this joy is ours. 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 We are singing. Whoa, we are singing for this joy is ours. We are singing. Whoa, we are singing for this joy is ours. We are singing for this love 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 is ours. We are singing. Whoa, we are singing for this love is ours. We are singing. Whoa, we are singing for this love is ours. We are singing for this joy 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 is ours. We are singing. Whoa, we are singing for this joy is ours. We are singing. Whoa, we are singing for this joy is ours. We are singing for this joy is ours. We are singing for this joy is ours.
So we are very grateful to all of our young people here at Unity Spiritual Center. So let's take a moment to bless our children, youth, and those in service to our youth ministry. Ready? Be the love you are. Sing the song you hear. Share your joy of life with people far and near. And for ourselves, be the love we are. Sing the song we hear. Share our joy of life with people far and near. Thank you so much. You can go find your people. Found their parents. Okay, so let's stand as you are able and join together for our closing prayer, followed by the peace song. The The light of God
surrounds us. I am the light of God. The love of God enfolds